Let's bring that back again. God damn it. I thought I was on. I wasn't on. And I don't mean on just in terms of the switch being on, but on in terms of hitting all my cues. But let's start again. Good morning, everyone. This is the BroDiallo broadcast Monday mornings, every Monday morning, except when it is until it ain't. This is every Monday morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. We came in with Fela Kuti, Yellow Fever, my favorite Fela Kuti song. Today is December 19th in the year of your Lord, 2022. I'm broadcasting straight out of the Q4 studios in the city of Chirac, state of Illinois, in the United States of America, in the over-ravaged, hyper-exploited planet Earth, in the misnamed Milky Way galaxy. I'm so happy that you're here with me. To all my Black Hebrew Israelites, happy Hanukkah. To all the members, people in that cult, happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. And man, if you Black Hebrew Israelites, because this is another caveat. It's funny how many people are getting caught up in this Black Hebrew Israelite push, but they don't understand that they're a very particular sect of Judaism. It's called Messianic Jews. And Messianic Jews believe in Jesus Christ. They actually believe that Jesus Christ was the fulfillment of the Messianic prophecy, whereas Jews, I guess Orthodox Jews, Ashkenazim Jews, Beta Israel, Ethiopian Falasha Jews, they are of the camp that Jesus Christ was not of divine birth and Jesus Christ was not a fulfillment of the Messianic prophet. I mean, I think Zionists should give Theodore Herzl, even though Theodore Herzl was ethnically Jewish, he was an atheist. It's funny that the holy state of Israel was founded by an atheist, or the movement to establish the holy state of Israel was actually a professed atheist. But I think Theodore Herzl, more so than any other figure in Jewish history, modern or ancient, should be the Messiah. Herzl is did more to fulfill the prophecy. The Quran. I was about to say Quran. Talmudic prophecy. But hey, that's me. What do I know? I'm just a atheist who thinks everybody who believes absurdities is in a good position to commit atrocities. But as I was saying, happy Hanukkah. But if the Black Hebrew Israelites, they follow the King James version of the Bible, and they are known as Messianic Jews. So if you are a Black Hebrew Israelite, you have to start Kwanzaa today. Not Kwanzaa. You have to start, what do you call it? Hanukkah starts today. And then in 7 days, you got to go on over to Christmas. And then to speak to your Blackness, if you're not absolutely self-hating Black person, which most Hebrew Israelites hate Africans and all things Africa. That's another thing. We really like the spectacle of the Black Hebrews all dressing up and marching in lockstep, but we never take a moment to really study their philosophy. Same thing with Nation of Islam. We like the brothers standing up there in the bow ties and proper posture, marching in lockstep. We never take a moment. Most people I know, I got great respect for Minister Farrakhan. Don't listen to a damn thing Farrakhan say. They just know the branding. They know white man devil, got a religion, Black man that stands up to the white man who doesn't, but that's his branding. And we don't take a moment to read what these people advocate for. What kind of world are they striving for? What are the specific solutions that they seek to implement? And what a world would look like if these people actually achieve their goals? I think if people took a moment for any of that, there'd be a lot less susceptibility of Black people falling for demagogues, hustlers, con men, cult leaders. But I'm going down the wrong path here. I'm trying to say happy Hanukkah to the Black Hebrew Israelites. They got a new champion. They're doing for, you got Kyrie Irving is doing for the Black Hebrew cult, what people like Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did for Islamic cults back in the 60s and 70s. They got a celebrity. Like, so now this thing, which I have never really paid much attention to personally. As much as I keep watch on these cults, as much as I advocate for exposure and dismantling of cults, I never paid attention to how certain cults really blow up when they can get a prominent celebrity to join the cult. Now, that's not always the case. That is not always the case. Like Black people, thank goodness, there are some Black Scientologists, and Farrakhan really tried to push Scientology hard, but I think it's just too far fetched. Not saying because in 3 or 4 months there could be whole Scientology's temples all over the hood, but up to this point, Black people's participation in Scientology has been somewhat of a trickle. Somewhat, it's and if most Scientologists show up in the hood, Black people laugh them and point at them like, look at these crazy people with these crazy beliefs. I don't believe in no space ghost possessing my body. I don't believe in no evil alien overlord Xenu. I believe in Jesus Christ. As if that makes more sense. It's funny. I just love to see religious people beef, and they bang their absurdities. You take your rubber chicken and beat somebody with there, and it's just two people beating each other with rubber chickens. It's like, that's what I see religious debates, when one person's trying to support religion and the other person's trying to support a different religion. But what I'm saying is, I don't see Scientology really trending like that. But what I have just cursory observed, that when a cult can get a celebrity behind it in their prime. But Scientology had Will and Jada Smith repping Scientology hard. If you go see that movie After Earth with Will Smith and his son, I know it was a bad movie. I'm not speaking to the quality of the movie. It was crappy. And my favorite type of movie genre is science fiction and post-apocalyptic themed movie. But if you go look at After Earth, not for the quality of the movie, how good or bad it was, but if you look at the movie for the ideology, for what's taught, the point of view about Will Smith was the only way you could become a superhero is to have no emotions or have absolute control of your emotions, having no extreme fear or love or nothing. You just become a human robot, a shell of humanity with no passions. That's straight out of Scientology. And Scientology really hates psychology and psychological diagnosis, psychological treatments. And they think that, getting your theons balanced or some shit. But anyway, I was just thinking, damn, it's when these cults get prominent celebrities, when prominent celebrities glom on to something. Back in the day when Erykah Badu and the Neo Soul people were walking around talking about namaste and talking about chakras and beings of light and radiant energy, all kind of Black people started getting into Hinduism or Hindu symbols. I walk into a sister's house, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, born and raised in the South Bronx, born and raised in the housing projects of Kansas City, Missouri. I walk into a round-the-way sister's house back in the early 90s, and she got all these Hindu symbols, all these Buddhist symbols, these Hindu and Buddhist sayings and scrolls and scripts. Black people went full Hindi, and no, never took a moment to read about that racist religion, Hinduism, about that racist, sexist, brutal religion of Buddhism and the Buddhist caste system and the Buddhist monks and their abusive children. Yes, just like the Catholic Church, the Buddhist temples bring in young boys, enslave young boys, and use them for everything from free labor to their sick, perverted gratification. Hindus right now going around gang raping women of the Dalit lower caste system as a form of terrorizing and maintaining the caste system, just like discrimination and black women were sexually targeted here during Jim Crow and up to this date. And I went around and I'm like, all these black people's like, brother, namaste, brother, your energy, brother. This is my second life or my third life. This is not my first time here. That baby has it. Oh, talking about karma, talking about reincarnation. And I'm like, did you sit down and read what's in this stupid ass book, Bhagavad Gita? Do you know the philosophies? Do you know the worldview? Y'all just know the symbols. But they had a lot of celebrities coming on stage, burning incense and doing chants and hitting bells. And so a lot of celebrities had and yoga was first blowing up like really big. And people weren't just doing yoga as a fitness craze, but really trying to get into the Eastern spiritualism. Empty yourself, emptiness. And so I saw as the celebrities were doing that on stage and talking about namaste and getting, Eastern mysticism and all that shit, it started trickling down in the hood. And like I said, in the early 90s, Islam is still riding off of when I was a kid. My grandmother was like, you get famous and rich, the Muslims come for you. And I'm like, oh, my word, I don't want the Muslims coming for me. So, it's funny how these cults, and now Kyrie Irving, they got some of the top. The Black Hebrew Israelites got Kendrick Lamar walking around in a diamond encrusted freaking crown. And I know if you just look at standard Judaism, you'd be like, well, how is he wearing a crown of thorns and he's into and being, pushing this Black Hebrew Israelite nonsense? Is because they're Messianic Jews. So I ain't gonna call names. So Kendrick Lamar went to Tiffany. Do you know about Tiffany and Company, the Tiffany diamond, blood diamonds? He went to Tiffany and had them make him a diamond encrusted crown of thorns like Jesus Christ. And he's running around the world with that shit on. And people are like, whoa, that's dope. Let me see. Which, I mean, there's just so many levels. It was he wore it on his record cover. And then he had the crown of thorns, right? And I saw him wear the crown of thorns, and I thought, man, that's corny as hell. But then, I don't know how I figured it out, but it was made at Tiffany's. This thing is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is a dime. These are they not gonna show me a close up. This thing is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And here's the white man, basically drawing crown of thorns, Tiffany and Company. Let's go to Tiffany and Company. Oh, there it is. Them is real diamonds. Yeah, that's real Christ-like. Oh my God. 8,000 diamonds. 50 thorns, 8,000 diamonds. And people are like, yeah, this brother positive. This brother's out his goddamn mind. 1,300 hours to make. And they're all white hands. You got the white devil and his white hands making your holy crown, Mr. Morale. Is that one of his nicknames? And there it is. They sure don't say how much he's paying. Look, all white hands. I ain't seen a black hand since, and the white man gets paid off of all of that. So anyway, this is consistent with his Hebrew, and now he's saying he's a Muslim. So Kendrick, Marie said he's not. He definitely promotes Black Hebrewism, and so wait. Okay, so he's a Christian. He's actually a Christian. But again, like I said, Messianic Jews are technically Christian, or are not, Jews anymore. They are Jews who they are, because Christianity was born of Judaism. So ultimately, he calls himself radical Christian, apparently, but that he's that's a messianic Hebrew. He's a messianic Hebrew. You can't fool me. But anyway, like I said, like I always say, man, these dudes is crazy. I'm wrong with my camera. Ain't my whatever. It is what it is. Lighting is terrible. What can I do? Where was I? Anyway, where was I? Oh, cults getting a celebrity sponsorship. So you got Kendrick Lamar and Kyrie Irving out here pushing this thing. But you know, and remember the 5% Nation of Gods and Earth? All my favorite rappers are 5%ers. Brand Nubian, Poor Righteous Teachers. Everybody I like. Everybody was 5%. But the 5% Nation of Gods and Earth didn't really like come into prominence like that. I knew a lot of people that listened to the music, and same thing with kind of Rastafarianism. When music was reggae music, roots reggae was the prominent form of dancehall before all the slackness took over. So it's not 100%. You can get the big celebrities on your shit, but some religions have really know how to market their celebrities and push their shit. Anyway, happy Hanukkah, Christmas, and Kwanzaa to Black Hebrew Israelite. You're going to be exhausted. Check on your Black Hebrew Israelite friends. You know, today I'm going to talk about Black love, but I was going to talk about mental health. And then I'm like, and somebody was like, brother, can you talk about Black love? And I get that request quite a bit. And it's weird. I don't know why people think I would know anything about love. And let me tell you something why I don't like talking about love. Real talk. You know, love is a thing, man. I could go sit here and tell y'all how to conduct yourself in relationship. I could sit here and tell y'all about Black love. And I go home and my clothes is on the front lawn. When the wind blows, I see my polos and Timbos, as Biggie Small said. I can go home and all my stuff thrown out on the front lawn. And I'm calling Chauncey to and trying to find a couch to sleep on. Trying to get a ticket to Nigeria. So I ain't got nowhere to go. So I understand that when you put yourself out there like that, that's why I prefer to talk about things that I can stand on for good. You know what I'm saying? I can talk politics. I can talk history. I can talk ideology. I can talk, institutions. I could talk down on celebrities and the elite. I can punch up, as they say. I could get in class analysis, class antagonism. But talking intimate stuff, that's what get you in trouble. Talking intimate stuff, man, that's too much. Emotions way too raw. Them raw, exposed nerves of human emotions. Man, listen. Tricks who think I'm tricking. But hey, y'all want to talk about it? You want to know my point of view on it? But like I said, you take everything. Well, I'm going to just tell you but even as I approach it, it's the same way I approach everything. From a radical analysis, revolutionary Pan-African perspective. So, but I wanted to talk about mental health, actually. I get sick of y'all being so proud of yourself. Your mental health. Yeah, we get mental health. Y'all so proud of yourself. Therapy, being pro-therapy. Y'all really proud of yourselves for that. And it's weird because of the way they do this shit. Let me tell you about the trick. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm going to go through it. And when I get out the other side of it, I'll deny I ever did it. But y'all got to hear this, man, because I'm sick of it. Especially every time somebody famous has a mental health crisis or somebody famous commits suicide, all of a sudden everybody's pro mental health. Everybody check on you. You good, bro? I remember Kid Cudi was threatening to kill himself, and they started talking about how Black men don't express our feelings. And the problem is Black men don't express our feelings. And I'm like, didn't Black men make the blues? We had whole music genres of nothing but how we feel. We created whole musical genres. And back in the 50s and 40s, the stereotypes was Black men were too emotional. Black men were not stoic enough, stern enough. Black men were too expressive. It was part of our primitive tropical evolution. We were like beasts who couldn't control our passions. And now, in 2020, they said that about our grandpa. Now they're telling us we don't express enough. We don't have enough emotion. What? I'm telling you, anything we do is going to be the wrong thing because that's the nature of oppression. Same thing with black women. Black woman is a harlot, Jezebel. Black woman ain't feminine enough. She's too feminine. She's too dependent. She's too independent. And black men, black folks in this country, black folks under oppression. What the blood clot? Why do we keep letting these people play these games with us? So they were saying, black men, we are going crazy. We're committing suicide. We're having mental health crises because we don't share our feelings. When before they were saying we were going crazy and having mental health crisis because we let our feelings run wild. That was the whole thing behind the lynching of black men can't control their passions. Which is it? Remember? Like Dick Gregory said, they say black people, we on the welfare and we took their job. White man, the same white man will be like, I can't get a job because the niggers get all the jobs. And then it was like, all my tax dollars go to welfare. And Dick Gregory said, we can't have all the jobs and get all the welfare. Pick a stereotype, white folks. Pick a stereotype. You know, they put everything. So I get sick that celebrity suicide, and here we go again. Same bullshit. People who got somebody with a mental health crisis in the room next to them. Like I said, it's black folks. Y'all got somebody suffering from mental health crisis laying in the bed next to you, and you wake up and go online talking about DJ Twitch or some other celebrity you never met. Somebody you don't know and don't want to know you. You can't walk up to in the street without getting put in a headlock by a bunch of bodyguards. And we sitting here talking about these people like they are representative of what's going on with us. Some rich black dude with a white wife and living a white life, kicking it, you know, drinking wine out of the wine cabinet of Ellen DeGeneres. That's different. And these celebrities make music. They go online and be like, I'm not like y'all. I ain't living. Yeah, I'm on a whole different level. Jay-Z, same night, same fight, but one of us cats ain't playing right. You know, they put it in their music. They put it on their social media stream. They show themselves in exotic places we can't even pronounce. And then they make and live with, they ain't living like us. They don't care about the issues we truly care about. They don't resonate with us. Or as, I can't remember his name. I believe it was, I think it was, I'm ashamed to say, Michael Eric Dyson. As he would say about Cosby, they have no organic relationship with the black community. They have no organic relationship with the black community. Obama, Michelle Obama, his daughters, they are not with us. And they say, I'm on a whole different strategy. I'm on a level most people can't comprehend. You know, I'm going time zone. He said, I got to lead a damn country just to have some fun. You know? And so, yes, when those people go through it, we should not imagine that it's reflective of what we go through and why we go through it. I know it seems harsh, but this is what is called, Dr. John Henry Clark called, the essential selfishness of survival. We as a class, within a race, have to understand that, because these rich celebrities will watch black people be mowed down, watch black people and suffer, and ain't got shit to say. The Congo. 16 million deaths in the Congo. Somalia. Famine has returned to the Horn of Africa. The subversion of the South African Haiti. And these people are jet setting with the same colonizers and capitalists that are causing so much suffering. Dave Chappelle sitting on Elon Musk's lap in a private jet. So when those black people go through anything, the black community should collectively turn our backs. And if we want to bring up an issue, it has to be from the ground up, from the grassroots, from the bottom up. We do not allow issues come from the top down. That is control. Concern comes from the bottom up. Control comes from the top down. So if your ass is talking about suicide as a result of D-Day twist, you are being controlled. You are not being conscious. You are being controlled. You are not feeling empathy. You are starstruck. And so I get tired of being fully immersed in the issues of African people. But I can only get it to resonate with the masses of my community if a celebrity gives attention to it or if a celebrity goes through it. I'm going to tell you like this. Fuck them celebrities. I told you again, go back. Celebrities aren't just people with a talent. Celebrities aren't simply famous people. Celebrities are a very insidious classification. Celebrities are the living embodiment of the status quo. We know several famous people, talented people, whether they are athletes, entertainers, politicians, but they're not all famous people. All artistic people are not celebrities. I know mad artists. I've been in artist houses. They ain't got no money. They got out there hustling and scraping together, making some of the most beautiful artwork, making some of the most amazing music, sculptures. I know an actor live around my way. Just a dude make you forget where you are. The dude, he takes on a role or takes on a persona and you will not know, like you get fully immersed. I went to see a play over the weekend called White Monkey, a reading. Magnificent play. Wasn't no millionaires on that stage, wasn't no celebrities on that stage, but there were some artists on that stage. It was a reading. It wasn't even a fully blown production. And I was fully creating visions in my mind. So I engage and interact with artists all the time, everywhere. They are not celebrities. And y'all get to thinking, oh, they deserve to be a celebrity. They work hard. They're really talented. They could really dunk them balls or spit them bars. That's not what makes you a celebrity. I know MCs that could rap circles around Jay-Z. Rapping good is, in order to be a celebrity, you have to be the living embodiment. You have to be the living embodiment of the status quo. You have to fully represent the highest aspirations of this society. And if you are someone who seeks to achieve and elevate within the status quo, you are a race traitor. You are a coon. You are an Uncle or Auntie Tom. You are a bad person. There are no good people at the heights of U.S. capitalism. You can't be a good capitalist. You can't be a good American patriot. You have to be a bad person. You are a bad person. We should not look up to those people. And I'm not saying you can't watch them chase balls. You can't watch them do their minstrel show on stage. Go ahead, turn on the BET Awards and and allow yourself to be entertained. Look, like Chuck D said, looking mighty stupid while you're shaking your ass. Watch some young lady talk about how she's N-word free. I don't want to waste my one N-bomb on that because I might have to use it. So if there's a trending topic sparked by a celebrity, you should denounce it. Not the topic, the fact that our community is controlled. Issues must raise up from the grassroots, from within the community, not be injected in our community from the outside. And don't, oh yes, they bring light to this issue. It's fleeting. It's fleeting. Beyonce done jumped from bail reform to veganism. It's fleeting. That is what they call a vanity project. LeBron James school, Oprah Winfrey school, our community is not a reservoir. It's not a place for you to come and carry out your charity. There's no such thing as giving back, because if you're giving back, that means you have exited the community. Nobody uses that language. I don't give back. I go to work every day to give back to my family. If you're not in a community, what did I tell y'all about investing? Investing literally means put in as little as possible to extract as much as possible. So these wealthy blacks who are investing in our community are our class enemies. They are our enemies. I don't want to talk about Master P. Shout out to Little Romeo for blowing up that generational wealth bullshit, for calling out the rhetoric and the nonsense of generational wealth. Shout out to Little Romeo. Yeah, I'm team Little Romeo. I just said, God damn it, I'm not going to let Romeo provoke me to talk about generational wealth. And he didn't. You notice, go watch the BroDiallo show, archives, website, YouTube. I've been talking about the myth and absurdity of generational wealth for the longest time, and how that's a very warped concept. That's some oppressor shit, but shout out to Little Romeo. But let me just say this. This is how they trick y'all. This is how we really get in play. Let's say I've been on mental health from the get, talking this mental health stuff. This is a trick. Let me tell you how they do this, right? They had these industries that were creating pollution, right? They had these industries that were literally doing what they call emitting carcinogens, right? So you had this spike in cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, the chemicals and the toxins that they use in manufacturing goods, and they spew it into the environment. And sometimes the food and products they produce that we consume, we eat, we put on our bodies, we inhale, are carcinogenic, right? So you have a system, an economy, a production system, and industries that create cancer. And then instead of saying, hey, we got to deal with the system, they say, no, cancer prevention starts with you. So you have to eat a high fiber diet. You have to do regular breast exams in the shower. It's on you to make personal and check on it. Talk to your if you have an aunt or a mother or an older woman that you love, tell her to get regular mammograms starting it. And men, if you have an uncle or an older man in your life, make sure he goes into routine prostate exams at the age of 45. Eat high fiber diet, eat a macrobiotic diet. You and yourself, you got to deal with this problem as an individual, even though the true source of the problem is systemic. It's the same thing with pollution. We got industries that are polluting our environment. There are about a dozen corporations that create 70% of all the pollutions and emit all the carbon, plus the military. But they tell you what, you have to recycle. You have to reduce your apartment footprint. Buy a car, and they make it a personal thing. They make these systemic problems personal. They do that with our physical health. You. And now they're doing the same shit with mental health, and we're buying into the same shit the same way we did with self-examination every day. The food you eat, has carcinogens in it. The water has carcinogens in it. The air got carcinogens in it. The soil got carcinogens in it. But to cancer, it's up to you. Only you can prevent forest fires. Remember, only you can prevent forest fires when the goddamn forest fires are a byproduct of carbon emissions from multinational corporations. If nobody ever stepped in the woods again, there would still be, if no individual ever did another campfire in the woods ever again, there would still be forest fires due to the drought and dry conditions, due to deforestation. So now they're saying the same thing about mental health. They run in that same goddamn hustle, and we eating that shit up. And not only do they say you get breast exam, you recycle, they make money off of selling you electric cars and recycling bins and biodegradable packaging that costs 10 times more than the plastic or styrofoam. And they turned the whole green into a profit-driven industry to where we got us fooling us, thinking we are the problem. And now here we go with mental health. You need to go talk to a therapist. Family, yeah, it's your mother. It's not the systems and institutions of global white domination. It's not the unyielding stress of having to earn and valuing yourself according to some fictional fiat currency. Having your whole worth and values and everything you pursue having to be oriented to accumulating fiat currency. Not being able to do anything just for the love, just for the appreciation of doing that thing. Can't walk out your front door and have a valued experience without having and spending some money. The unrelenting anti-life, anti-social media bombarding us from every direction. The mythology that there are people out there like Master P and Little Romeo living a jet-setting life while we're doing nothing and not contributing nothing. And then they telling you the work of your life, your job exploiting your life, underpaying you, undervaluing you, not giving you proper benefits, health care, no pension to look forward to. No, your mental health is your responsibility. You go talk to a therapist. You individual go to that individual therapy instead of fixing the goddamn society. If everybody's sick, if everybody's getting the same illness, it's something in the environment. Epidemiologists are writing papers on it. There's a whole field of community psychology that says, well, mental health and well-being, sense of self is born out of and must be sustained within a communal context. There are literally communal psychologists who don't look at sick individuals. They look at sick systems. They look at sick policies. They look at sick institutions. And they done tricked us yet again. Go get my pills and my situation and go into my home and talk to my therapist. And we really proud of ourselves where we're sitting here talking about, you need to get therapy. I'm a progressive. I'm a forward thinker because I advocate therapy in the Black community. And there is a stigma against mental health, blah, 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 blah. And you really think you more progressive than your grandma to just say, oh, that boy touched. All he needs is prayer. You're no more progressive than when your grandmother had a son or a brother or a family member that was having a mental health crisis. And they was like, well, you need to get into church, get into the Lord. You need to exercise your demons. You're no more sophisticated than your grandma was. She was spewing the rhetoric of her time. You're spewing the rhetoric of your time, but neither one of y'all are looking at a radical, institutional, systemic, revolutionary solution. You're no more revolutionary. And guess what? Your solution, hell, you might as well roll the dice. Prayer, when you don't fix the environment, I could give you the best cancer treatment. You can buy all the organic cotton clothing and recyclable shit you want to buy, or you can get the best mental health therapy or the best drug combination to help rebalance yourself. But you go right back into the carcinic, cancerous, polluted, and insane society that you were healing from, and they throw you back in there. So they're not healing you, they're giving you coping mechanisms. They're not healing you, they're giving you coping mechanisms. Because if I don't fix the shit that's causing the sickness, then I'm just helping you to cope. I'm not helping you to cure. But I'm not going to talk about mental health because y'all just frustrate me, and I don't want to be the bad guy. Say goodbye to the bad guy. It just kind of annoys me. Y'all so goddamn proud of yourselves for advocating for mental health. I'm not saying don't go get mental health. Don't twist my words. I didn't say don't go get mental health treatment. I didn't say don't buy organic cotton if you can afford that shit. I didn't say don't recycle. I didn't say don't do prostate and breast exams. I'm not saying don't do any of that. I'm saying that is all inadequate. That is all a trick and a manipulation. That is capitalist control. What I'm saying is, as you work on to sustain yourself as an individual, sustain your loved ones, you need to be looking at the systemic issue and come with systemic solutions. If you only do the individual shit, you're playing into their hands. Now, but I'm not going to talk about that today. I said that was going to be today's topic, but I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not going to say nothing about that today. I was just telling you what I was, because I've gotten more. And every February around Valentine, I try to convince my wife to come in and we do a show on love. But like I said, we play ourselves, because I see how y'all did that Derek Jacks dude. I see it. Man, listen. Y'all ain't gonna trick me to get on here and become a relationship guru. And like I said, I go home and on the lawn, my clothes and the wind blows. I see my polos and Timbos and on the front lawn for something I don't even know what I did. So I ain't going out like that. So I had some other things I wanted to get into, but let's just go to the topic. This is Q4 Radio. It's 7:53 in the AM Central Standard Time. This is Q4 Radio, q4.org. This is the BroDiallo broadcast every Monday morning, 7 a.m. to 9, and every Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. to 9. You can catch the BroDiallo show broadcasting on Q4 Radio, q4.org, and the various platforms and streams affiliated and associated and all that. So proceeding on, we're gonna talk about Black love today. And I'm an alpha. This emotion stuff ain't for me. But it's an interesting topic from a revolutionary standpoint. Today's topic is actually Black love, patriarchy, matriarchy, and anarchy. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been talking to some alpha males. I've kind of dipped my toe in the manosphere. And it's a scary place. I'm gonna tell y'all like Aunt Esther told Fred Sanford, watch out, sucker. You better watch out. I'm telling you. The manosphere. And what got me into the manosphere is I was actually looking at, I was talking about Black people flirting with fascism. I was seeing that a lot of Black people online, mostly brothers, wearing sharing links from places like the Babylon Bee, Black men quoting and sharing insights from the racist Jordan Peterson, Black men supporting right-wing reactionaries like Joe Rogan, and so celebrating Elon Musk. And I was just looking at a lot of brothers who claimed to be pro-Black. I'd literally see a brother with a red, black, and green flag in their profile, and talking about Garveyism and all this shit, and at the same time talking about Jordan Peterson and these other reactionary, racial realist racists. And so I'm looking at the politics of it. And then that's when I kind of stumbled, and some brothers called me out. Brother was having a show on patriarchy. And I'm like, why don't you bring a sister on or a woman to talk about, That's like you have a discussion on racism and it's all white folks. You have a discussion about LGBTQ issues and it's all cisgendered heterosexuals. Actually, that happened to me too. I was called to represent the queers and the gays and the trans people. I was called on to some brother's platform and he wanted me to represent. I'm like, hey, what have you heard? Who you been talking to? I'm not part of that group. Let me stop playing. And so I thought it was weird. But that's how a lot of these alpha male Black men spaces, they're not even in communication with the very people they're condemning, criticizing, or seeking to claim to be unity with. I mean, I am not joking when I said I was called to be the voice of the gay community in a discussion, in a debate about, the gay agenda, whether it's this insidious conspiracy or something we should fear. And I was invited. I didn't go, but I told the dude, I'm like, look, why don't you contact this sister? She's queer, lesbian, she's a member of the LGBTQ. Call and have her on to discuss it. And he did. To his credit, he called. She cussed him out. She cussed him out something fierce. And so she said, nope, not coming over there to validate who I am. Screw you. So, okay, it's both sides. I guess it's a both, but I am not mad at her, because if if I was called to be on Fox News, I wouldn't go. I'm not going to go to the enemy's side. So just, was it 2 weeks ago, I was on this broadcast about patriarchy, and no women, just me and all us men telling each other about patriarchy. And I maybe it's just how I feel, that beta energy, where they was going in on me. And I'm like, gosh, these brothers are rational. But when we talk about this issue, they went way off in left field. So anyway, and then on top of that, people started saying, well, what do you think? Because I'm spending all my time trying to dissect their rationalities and arguments. I really maybe didn't get a chance to say how I feel. So let's talk about it. Patriarchy, matriarchy, and anarchy. Let's start with patriarchy, because we can get that out of the way real fast. It's not a thing. Patriarchy is an idea. Matriarchy is like an idea. It could be a desire. But there are some patriarchal communities. In Asia, apparently, there's supposed to be a whole patriarchal nation of 4 million citizens. But many archaeologists says that patriarchy, which is a society governed and ruled by women, has never happened. There's never been a truly or wholly patriarchy society. And what they call it, matriarchy. Can't even say the word, is so weak. Matriarchy. There's never been a truly matriarchal society. And what is called matriarchal societies is often matrilineal. That's matrilineal. So the research, some writers suggest that there were matriarchal societies to a limited degree. Some archaeologists said, no, those weren't actually matriarchal societies, meaning that men played a significant role in the governing and ruling and structuring of the society. But women also were allowed to play a role. And what those societies actually were matrilineal, meaning that the name and the property flowed down, because lineal means lineage, line, whereas archy, the suffix archy means rule. Democracy means rule of the people. Monarchy means one rule. Oligarchy means the rule of a small number of people. Matriarchy means the rule of women. Patriarchy means the rule of men, not just in families, but in the society and governance and institutions, right? So a lot of matrilineal societies were so alien. They were a curiosity. They are a curiosity. That matrilineal societies were blowing, like when explorers, or I'm sorry, I will never use the word explorer. When European invaders went around the world and they saw matrilineal societies, they were like, wow, it was literally like an alien planet. So this is an exotic language of an exotic people who have an exotic culture, and they have a real weird way of doing things. So there are some matrilineal societies, but there is an ongoing debate. And I just would think it was unfortunate, but there's a strong argument saying there's never really been a wholly or truly matriarchal society. And could that be because when women share power with men, when women play a significant role in the system, a lot of times that's called matriarchy, because soon as a man feels in any way displaced by a woman, oh, they're taking over. Just like a brother get a halfway decent job and a promotion, oh, the blacks are taking over. I hate the saying, it's corny as hell, but it's true. There's this thing where they say, what's that thing when you're used to being in power, equality feels like oppression. So anyway, matriarchy is an idea. It can even be an ambition for some feminist or womanist. But to be honest with you, well over 90% of contemporary societies are patriarchal, and the vast majority of societies that we have enough information about how their institutions and governing structures ran, the vast majority of human societies and human what that we could identify as culture and civilization, were patriarchy for the win, brothers, up top, brothers. And it's weird that patriarchy is so dominant. Patriarchy literally has won, and men are out here blaming matriarchy and these females for everything. Like, you're the winner. It's kind of like the integrationist. The people who push integration as a solution and salvation for black people don't like to acknowledge that they're one, because shit is really bad for black people and shit is getting worse for black people. And none of the promises of integration and equality. And when Dr. King said little black boys and little white boys and little black girls walking hand in hand with little white girls, and that was supposed to bring us certain benefits. It was supposed to transform certain conditions. And those conditions were not transformed, and those benefits were never delivered. And so you win. If I go and tell someone, hey, you've become vegan, and I sell you on becoming a vegan and adopt a vegan diet, and then I pretty much deceive you about what veganism will do for you. I'm like, listen, you become vegan, you'll never get sick. You'll become down to your ideal weight. You'll have a six-pack and your sexual prowess, your sex life will improve. And you become a vegan. And literally none of that happens for you. And then I say, you're not a good enough vegan. What you really need to do is become a raw foodist vegan. You need to, and I just keep pushing more veganisms instead of acknowledging the limitations of what veganism can or can't do for you. Overselling. So the integrationist says freedom and equality. All we need to do is drink out of their fountains, sit at their lunch counters, and go to their schools, and problems solved. And so then they just claim, oh, you just didn't integrate right. or integration will work if not for all your sagging pants. And so you start blaming shit that ain't got shit to do with shit. Same thing. Patriarchy has won. Men are suffering miserably. Men are losing ground. Men are dying at higher rates, living miserable lives and dying early. And they can't say, well, patriarchy is the problem. They have to say, well, matriarch women are displacing men. And if you're a white man, you get to blame women, immigrants, colored Negroes. You get to a whole bunch of people to blame. But if you're a black man, you just kind of stuck with blaming women, because these females destroyed the black family. Single mothers destroyed the black. So anyway, patriarchy has won. Any brother, because I was talking to some brothers that saying that patriarchy is our salvation. Patriarchy is the solution, that we need more patriarchy in the black community. And the fact that we don't have patriarchy in the black community is the reason why the black community suffers so much. And I'm like, then you want, like the brothers who say, don't vote. Hey, don't vote. You know what I'm saying? Don't vote because they don't respect us. We're going to withhold our votes until we get tangibles. If withholding votes meant you would get tangibles from either of the political parties, we'd have it. Because in districts, 70% or more of the black community doesn't vote. Voter turnout is generally hovers around 30, maybe 35, 34. The first election, presidential election, where you had 50% or more black participation. What? I don't know why that ended. Who knows? Okay. The only election where you had 50% or more black participation was Barack Obama's campaign. Prior to and after Barack Obama, you had, like I said, in the 30s, midterm elections, you can have voter turnout in the teens. So you have between 70 to 80 to 90% of the community going with your plan of not voting. And then you don't want to claim and you want to claim that you didn't. I hate when you win and don't claim your victory. If I could get 70 of black people to be atheist, vegan, Pan-African revolutionary, if I could get those kind of numbers going with what I advocate to do, one of the things I advocate, I couldn't sit here complaining. So patriarchy has won. And it can't claim a victory because its victory has been pretty a catastrophe for the very men who embrace it. And there's something I was reading about matriarchy before I move on to talk about patriarchy in depth. And it's a fact. Matriarchy can't stand up to patriarchy, whether it's better or not. Matriarchy or matrilineal systems where they have encountered patriarchal systems tend to just like capitalism versus socialism. It's not that it's a better system. It's just a much more brutal system that whereas socialist societies just can't muster the might. And they have this thing called siege capital socialism. But I don't want to get too into that. We just have to acknowledge, even if you're a pro-matriarchy, you do yourself no favors by denying the reality. Most complex human systems, most complex human civilizations, most modern and most ancient, would be defined or go under the umbrella of patriarchal. And matriarchies were mostly matrilineal. And the research also shows that women do fare better under matrilineal systems in terms of abuse, in terms of well-being, in terms of life expectancy, quality of life. They do. So moving on. And let me say something, because when I was talking to these brothers and I was denouncing, I ain't even gonna lie. I ain't gotta lie. I'm anti-patriarchy. I do not support patriarchy. Right? And these brothers were saying that matriarchy destroyed the black community. And they were saying, and I'm like, well, how did matriarchy destroy? They said the single mother households. And they start spitting all these stupid ass statistics about single black mothers, as if, and let me tell you, a single black mother is not something created by a single black mother. Didn't create single black motherhood. Single black mothers did not create single mother. But anyway, I'm not even going to get too heavy into that. But that's their main thing. We had fathers in the home, no fathers in the home, and those men are abuse and blah, blah, spitting these statistics. And it reminded me of the racial realists, Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson. What's that? What that Jewish Uncle Tom? What do you call a Jewish Uncle Tom? What do Jews, self-hating Jews, I guess they call it. This guy kicks it with Nazis and tries to justify Nazis, and he's Jewish. What's that guy? Faxton? I can't remember his name right now. Scumbag. He's over the Daily Wire. Anyway, they quote statistics about black people in crime. I was going to talk about the Moynihan. Sasha, stop getting out in front. She's a spoiler. I was going to talk about the Moynihan report. Ben Shapiro, thank you. Gosh, I was about to explode. Y'all saved me. Shout out to Andy, Natasha, and Mina. Ben Shapiro, right? What these white men do is they look at statistics. They say, you look at the statistics, black men in crime, black men black men in crime, black men in incarceration. That is evidence. I'm just going off of strict evidence that the black man is inherently criminal, is irresponsible, and just look at the stats. And then brothers are very quick to say, oh, you can't just look at the numbers. You have to look at the context. You have to look at the history. You have to look at the conditions. You have to look at the power relations. You have to look at the conspiracy to subvert, right? when you start spitting the negative statistics for black men. But then I sit down and talk to black men, and I'm not talking about these foaming at the mouth cats. I'm talking to black scholars. I'm talking about black men who are Pan-African conscious, educated black men. And they do the same thing. Single mothers. Most men incarcerated come from single mother households. Most men out here doing this in single mother households. Single mothers are the problem. And I'm like, racial realists say, I'm not a racist. I just have to accept the reality of the numbers. And they do the same thing. But I have to tell you, as a product of 2 generations of single mothers, 2 generations, my mother had me when she was 17 and my father was 16. So I had a single father gone and mother, teenage mother, single mother household with 3 kids. And then my grandmother took custody of us when I think I was in the 5th grade. Well, they held me back and put me in I was in special ed. So I was in the 5th grade in special ed. My grandmother adopted me, my brother, and my sister. And she was a single mother. She was a single mother that had just raised 6 kids, my mother and 5 of my brothers, and 5 of her brothers, my 5 uncles. So 2 generations of single mother household. And I have to tell you, as a product of single mother household, those homes were patriarchal. I was raised in a single mother patriarchal system. See, it is a myth where Daniel Patrick Moynihan, he said a lot of dumb shit. But one of the dumb things he said was that the black community was matriarchal because of the single mother households. But that is as though you could say that if you're in a room full of black people, then that is a Pan-African or black conscious space. You can have a room of all black people, and every thought and behavior and value in that room is Western, Eurocentric, white. And it's not a white person within 100 miles. And everything going on there, is born out of and feeds into and validates the systems and institutions of white hegemony. With no white people around, you can have whiteness advance through blackness. Ask Obama. You can have a bunch of black people in the room and not one capitalist. Not one capitalist. Everybody in that room has a negative net worth. And you can still have every value, view, ambition of capitalism. You can have capitalism valued and promoted in a room where there are no capitalists. Same thing with white. So I'm sorry to tell you that women not only can be, but most women are patriarchal. Having a single black mother household does not make that household patriarchal any more than having a black household makes that home African-centered, Pan-Africanist, or even the most basic pro-blackness. Just what we considered as being pro-black. You can have an all-black household, and that household is anti-black, colorist, Western, Eurocentric oriented. So my home, both of the homes I came up in under my mother and then my grandmother, were extremely patriarchal households. How do women do patriarchy? The church, Covenant Memorial Baptist Church, that my grandmother had me baptized into, and I would have to attend Sunday service, Sunday night Bible study, Monday fellowship, Wednesday prayer service. Friday, I was on the choir and I was an usher, so I'd have to go to usher board meetings and go to usher board and choir rehearsal. On Saturdays, we canvassed the neighborhood, going door to door to tell people about the light of Christ and encourage people to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior and the only path to salvation. We were in church 5 to 6 days a week. That church, at the time, the founder was still the pastor, Reverend Eugene Bowie, did not allow women to sit on the front row of the church. nor could women sit on the second row of the church. Women could sit third row and back, including his own mother, my great grandmother, Grandma Genevieve Bowie. Women were allowed to sit from the front to the back. Women were not in the Sunday school. Women were allowed to teach the children. Women were allowed to teach other women. Women were not allowed to teach men, but men were allowed to officiate over the women's classes. Men were allowed to teach the women's classes. Women were not allowed to teach men. Women were not allowed to speak behind the pulpit. Even though women would make the announcements and have other things, there was a little side podium that was not on the altar. So if a woman was coming to speak, she would have to go speak at this little side podium to make church announcements and other duties, whereas the men and the male children were allowed to speak at the holy altar, to stand at the altar and speak to the congregation. Women were not allowed to wear dresses. Women were mandated to wear dresses. Men weren't allowed to wear dresses. I guess that's a little balancing. Women were not allowed to wear pants. And it was very funny because generally there was no issue. But a new family came to join the church, and this man had a wife who was, I believe, a lawyer or some other type of professionals. And this is in the late 80s, early 90s, and she had a series of pantsuits, really nice pantsuits. And so she come to church in her various nice pantsuits because that's just what she owned. And it was a controversy. I mean, it was you would swear Satan walked into that church. And the man, that poor brother, I remember feeling bad because first of all, he walked into church. He wanted to sit up front, close to front as possible. And his wife was like, what? And his wife forced him to sit in the back. His wife forced him to sit in the back. And so his wife was like, if I can't sit up front, you're going to leave here? You're going to leave me sitting behind you? So he couldn't sit up front with the other reindeers. He had to sit in the back with his wife, 3 rows back. And I watched this as a kid. I hated church, so I paid attention to everything but the sermon. And so eventually, she broke down, and she got some skirts. And they were like thrift store skirts. They were like those elastic waistbands. They weren't even, she would be impeccable. I mean, jewelry, hair, her blouses, everything would be, and she come in this ratty skirt. Man, that woman, man, I hope she knows she going to hell. She was like, fine, you want a skirt? She went out and found the ugliest, most ill-fitting, ill-matching skirts and marched into that church. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say is, my grandmother, single mother of 6 kids and 3 grandkids, raising on her own, was patriarchal. I remember so many arguments between my older sister, who I can say it now, I'm old enough. She was much more responsible than my baby brother and I. She worked, she was into a lot less mess. She went to school, she did extracurricular activities, and she was monitored every step of the way. And she would always say when she wanted to do something, she wanted to go to a party, she wanted to go to the skating ring, she wanted to go catch the late movie at the dollar show, and everybody know ain't nobody watching movies at the dollar show, they doing other stuff. She wanted to go out with friends or a boyfriend. Everything was scrutinized. And the default answer to my sister was no. And my sister would look at my grandmother and say, Diallo just comes and goes as he pleases. Diallo does what he wants to do the way he wants to do it when he wants to do it. You don't scrutinize Diallo. You don't. You let Diallo do what he wants. And then my younger brother, Man, we called him. Man, he's the baby, and he comes and goes. You ask no questions. But everything I do, you were scrutinizing me. Household chores. My sister was expected to cook, wash, clean. Now, mind you, this is me, my brother, my uncle. 2 of my uncles were still home. Mostly men lived in the house. And we had to take out the trash. So it was literally one chore split between 4 dudes. Can't have us doing girly stuff, sissy stuff. And I could just go on and on about how to the best of her ability, and I'm not condemning my grandmother. Bless her heart, man. There's generations here that wouldn't be here otherwise, you know. But she was patriarchal in her faith. She was patriarchal in her values. She was patriarchal in how she raised her sons versus raising her daughters. She was patriarchal. And so when they say these single mother households are patriarchal, I'd like to see that. Because a lot of times, a single mother don't mean she don't have a man in her life. That means she's not married. And when you grew up in the housing project where I lived, married women weren't eligible for the housing voucher. So if you got married, you'd lose your food stamps, you lose your welfare, you might lose your kids get kicked off Medicaid, you might lose your housing voucher. But as I grew up in a housing unit, I'd say out of hundreds of units, individual home units, maybe 3 or 4 of them had were married couples. I mean, I could count them on one hand. I remember the Washington family. It was a wife and husband, and they had many cute daughters. Nikki, Anita, this is my first crushes. I had a crush on these 2 sisters, Nikki and Anita. But the Washingtons, and then this, I don't know if this counts because this guy, he had a family, a wife, but he was basically on staff. He was maintenance man, security guard. He had the dude in the projects got, he was remember from Good Times, Bubba Butt? He was like that guy. He was a man of many. He held things down, so I don't know. I think he lived there, but he was on staff, the payroll of the bit. So like that, and maybe one other house, but all single. But in all those homes, there were men. My grandmother had had a boyfriend for my entire life. She was with this guy for like 40 years. Couldn't get married because my grandmother had these kids. And when she adopted us, she had a housing voucher. She had us on Medicaid, and she would get food stamps and to raise up me and my siblings because she was an elderly woman. She was a grandmother. She had just exhausted herself. And for years, she worked as a receptionist, raised 6 kids on a receptionist income. And she had little street hustles and stuff, but so she went on welfare and raised us up on welfare. And so her and quote unquote Uncle Martin, because my grandmother was a good Christian woman, so we had to call basically our step grandfather Uncle Martin. And so every single house had a man that has a certain inordinate level of authority and control over that house, whether he lived there or not. So this single mother household being a matriarchal thing does not stand up. These women were not feminists. I didn't meet my first avowed feminist till I got to college. I lived in a neighborhood of all women, and I never heard the word feminist or matriarchy or patriarchy, to be fair. But that community was governed, ruled, dominated, exploited, preyed upon by patriarchy. The women had internalized patriarchal values, and many of those women, if not all of them, felt a great sense of shame that they didn't have a man in their household because that was the appropriate way to have a man. So I think it's unfair to call single Black motherhoods matriarchal unless that mother, and matriarchy is not the family. People say the family is the foundation of society. So if society is patriarchal, and even after generations of single mother households, you still have an overall patriarchal society, these mothers are instilling patriarchal values into their daughters and sons. I know my grandmother. I walked out of her home like I'm the man. I was a patriarchal, sexist, homophobic, and my grandmother made sure I had good Christian values because those are all Christian values. Even after I became an atheist, it took me decades to overcome my Christian indoctrination, because I'm talking about this as though I wasn't down with what my grandmother was teaching and what Pastor Bowie and Covenant Memorial Baptist Church and later the masjid and my older brothers and my cousins and my uncles. I was in it and I was down with it. I literally had to go through a revolutionary transformation of my own disposition and mentality. So I was talking to these brothers and they were like, yeah, single mother households, that's matriarchy. And I just started explaining and discussing some of the things like, what are the matriarchal values? You'll find a lot of single mothers and you ask them, their kids don't have their same last name. They give them even if the father's not present. You know, I'm like, how come we got to call your mama Miss Peters and your name is Smith? You, Kevin Smith, your mama's Miss Peters. That's everybody in the hood. It'd be 3 or 4 names in one household. Because the mother's like, well, I'm going to give you your daddy's name. Give you your daddy's name. Even though your daddy ain't here, you're going to carry his name. That's literally patriarchy. You don't need men present for patriarchy. I knew a guy. I'm going to talk about this and then I'm going to move on to patriarchy. Run through that. I knew a guy named Moshe Mala Muhammad. He was born and raised in a wealthy family in Saudi Arabia. And Moshe and I went to school together and we worked together for a couple of years. And he was a weird guy to me. First of all, I'd never met someone from Saudi Arabia before. But Saudi Arabia was always a scary place to me because I hate religion. I just have to say, I don't like religion. You have to respect people's religion. No, I don't. No, you do not. Stop telling people you have to respect people's faith. If people believe shitty shit, you don't have to believe the shitty shit they believe. You don't have to respect them for believing shitty shit. But anyway, I'd never met a guy who was born and raised into a full-blown theocracy before. And he was weird to me because he would dye his hair blonde. And he would drive like a Trans Am. And he would try to act like, you guys ever see that John Travolta movie, Staying Alive? Whatever that movie is. He would kind of like, he was a caricature of an American. If you go to somebody raised in an isolated environment and only knew about the United States from movies, this is pre-internet, and you was like, okay, how do Americans talk? You ever see like someone from Asia, the Middle East, or Africa mimic an American? And being all how they imagine Americans are, and I don't blame them. Big Mac, guns, Big Macs, Hooters. He was literally that guy, but he was dead ass. He wanted to be anything but Saudi Arabia. He hated Saudi Arabia. And he came here and he told his family, I'm coming to America to go to school. And he was going to and then go back and take over his family's wealth and manage his family as the man. And he came to the United States, never set foot. They paid his tuition in full, got him housing, and he disappeared. He escaped. And he went to like a little junior college, is where I met him. And this is a guy come from millions of dollars. And he was living very humbly, and he was a caricature. He dyed his hair blonde. He'd wear any clothes that he would look at like, yeah, this is American clothes, and drive an American muscle car. And I asked him like, yo, what's up with you? And he was like, I hate Saudi Arabia. And he talked about, what we all know about the kingdom. But he said the most aggressive enforcers of the patriarchal system were the women. He said, my aunts were the worst that forced you to go to the mosques and force. And he said the women, just like in Iran, the morality police, the men don't arrest the women, and it's the women who enforce the wearing of the hijab. You get in trouble, a strange man can't come to, it's women enforcing the law. He's like the women in Saudi Arabia. He's like, I was so shocked when I came to the United States. I come to America. He loves America. He thought I was insane for, not thanking Allah every day for allowing me to be born in the greatest country in the world. He was patriotic, very curious guy, right? And he said that he was shocked when he got to the United States and he would hear rhetoric about women being oppressed in Saudi Arabia. And how women and rhetoric about, and this is around the first Gulf War, and how we're going to bring women and how women aren't allowed to be who they are. And he was like, women are the oppressors. He's like, the most oppressive people I've encountered. He's like, I didn't have many encounters with the government. I didn't have many encounters with the state or the system. He said, I had daily encounters with the women in my family. And he said, the men really didn't care either way. They watched soccer. They smoked hookah. They went to work. They would travel. He's like, the men didn't really interact with the children at all. He said, but the women are the enforcers of the patriarchy. They are the bludgeon, the iron fist, the patriarchy, internalized patriarchy, like internalized Western values. And so it's very curious to me when patriarchal men get mad at women, when women are many women are your number one allies, or as the internet, now they call them pick-me's. But I tell you, these churches, my uncle's church, sexist patriarchal church, women held that shit together. Women did the books. Women collected the tithes. Women cleaned that place. Women prepared the food. Women organized. Oh, we're going to have a revival. That my Uncle Gene would sit at his big mahogany desk. Pastor Bowie would sit at that desk and say, I want to have a revival. And that's all the work he did. Then he leaned back. He leaned back in that chair, and all the women would start putting together the revival. Making the tickets, renting the banquet hall, the decorations, the streamers. They would design and print the booklets. And then Uncle Gene would show up, stepped in front of the group, the congregation, says, I put this on. I'm telling you. So when I was talking to these brothers and they were going off on these women, I'm like, your problem is not these women. Your problem is patriarchy. And they have to deny, they literally have to deny the existence and the power and the depth that patriarchy runs, because they want to do patriarchy. The solution to patriarchy for most men is more patriarchy. And the reason they're able to deal with that cognitive dissonance is they deny that patriarchy has won. Like white people, like white men denying racism. Racism's no longer the problem. The blacks have all the money. They all play basketball and they're all millionaires. So let's move on to talk about patriarchy. Where do we go from there? Within patriarchy, you have sexism. Sexism is discrimination based on sex. And this shit is real. And let me tell you, as a father, my sons were raised. One of my sons was born in Brooklyn, New York. The other son born in the Midwest. But when my sons were little, especially our first son, and we were in our 20s, and we had this baby born in sin. And whenever I was out with my son, I would get all these praise and accolades out of nowhere. Women and men, I'm not lying and I'm not making this up. If you don't believe me, if you are a man, especially a younger man, and you don't have a baby, go out and borrow your sister's babies or your auntie's or your cousin babies. Go out in public with a small child and see to it that people won't literally start throwing flowers at you. And this has happened to me. It is not a New York thing, because it happened to me everywhere we lived, everywhere we go. I'd be pushing a stroller by myself or carrying my son in my arms, have him on my shoulders, or in that stupid sling thing my wife bought that I hated, that you strap the baby to your body. And people would be like, right on, brother. And women would come and help me to adjust and properly adjust the sling. And everybody was like, yay, go boy, high fives all the way down the block. And I could just be taking my son from his mama's house to his grandmother's house and dropping him between point A and point B. And that's the extent of my fathering for the day. And I would get all this love. All this love. Oh, fathers, black fathers. We need more black fathers. Encouragement, pats on the back. And back then, y'all ain't gonna believe me, but I got pictures. I had these long locks. We were a very bohemian, barefoot family. We never wore shoes. We only wore sandals and flip-flops. You know, very bohemian, very Afrocentric, young family. And I'd be walking with this little boy who's like 6'4" now. He's a monster. Oh Lord, what have I done? This 6'4" monster used to be cradled. And I'd be walking, I get all this praise, right? When I'd walk with my wife, we get nods and appreciation. Right on, brother. Black family. All this love. Just walking from our apartment to the food co-op, walking to get some, soy mocha lattes from Starbucks. They didn't have oat milk back then. I'm talking about the early 2000s. Going to get soy mocha lattes from Starbucks. People be giving, just recently, just this summer, my family went to visit my great aunt, and we were in New York. And me and my sons are monsters. They're like up here, towering over us. And they got the long hair, and they're all anime emo dudes now. You know how these anime emo, tonight will be the night that I will die for you. They in that stage. Well, my oldest son's going out of it, and my younger son's going a terrible time for me. But anyway, people like Black family, right on, Black family, Wakanda forever. But I find that when my wife would be out with our son on her own, and back then I was an alpha, right? My wife was a stay-at-home mother. You're going to stay at home, breastfeed this child, and do as I say. I wasn't that far gone, but I was damn close. I was almost Umar. I was like 90% Umar back then. Maybe, I don't want to give myself too much credit. I was 85% Umar, but I was striving for that 100% alpha male Umar status. So you stay home with this child, I go to work, and you don't lift a finger. Needless to say, that didn't last long, but it was an interesting dynamic. She was like, I want to go to school. I want to do things. I got plans, plots, and schemes. But anyway, early, first child, both of us in our 20s. And my wife would go out alone, and she had like this long hair. And like I said, we look like bohemians. And she would tell me, I don't get those accolades. I don't get the praises, like me being, and we didn't have wedding bands. So my wife could be seen as a single mother. And most people were indifferent, and there's some people scorned, but nobody was like, right on, sister, tend to that baby. You doing good, Black woman, Black mother. She never got it. And I mean, it's not something light. It's not something that happened once or twice. It happened constantly when I was out with my sons. And then I had a new baby with our second child. Our second child was born in a different city. And the same thing happened again. Don't let me be out. Don't let me be in the grocery store. And a single, yay, fathers. Boo, mothers. Unless the mother's with the father. So we would get praised for Black families. I'd get praised to being alone, a Black man alone, my child. And my wife, if she was just out, nobody bothered. Nobody said that. She didn't get the high fives. Weird shit. And not only that, even to this day, my wife, an educated, traveled, multilingual, whatever modern day accolades you can give to someone for achievement. My wife has it, right? Very smart, articulate, to our, strong Black woman. And she comes to me to this day and she's like, there's an issue with the car and I don't want to have to deal with this mechanic. And I see myself, my wife will tell me, listen to how people explain things to me versus to you. We'll go to a real estate agent. And my wife will have sat there and read all those documents. She will have sat there, gone online to look up terms and did all this work. I didn't do nothing. I scan it, maybe read the highlight. I don't do nothing. And we go sit before a real estate agent and we want to get this property or something. And he'll be explaining shit to my wife like she's an idiot. She'll be sitting there and she was like, pay attention. And he'll be like, what you have to understand about this industry, what you have to, and I know when you see this home, you're going to get really into and you're going to get excited, but you have to, they literally, this has happened. I don't care. We go to the mechanic, we go to speak to our accountant. Tax time is coming up. And It's everywhere. Anytime we have to engage with a professional. And sometimes my wife is like, I'm done fighting the battle. You just go ahead and you be up front and you let them see your face, let them hear a man's voice so we can just get this shit done. I'm on the battlefield all her life. Guess how long my wife has had to fight? All her life. And sometimes she's just like, I'm exhausted. Go ahead. It's good to have a man here. You know, I have a relative who is very wealthy and very successful. She is an extremely accomplished woman, doing things that I ain't talking about modern day accomplished black folks. I'm talking about during Jim Crow, during the era of segregation and the era of benign neglect, during the Reagan era. She was creeping on a come up, getting promotions and all that, right? She hired a man. She married young, decided marriage ain't for me. I ain't trying to be married. Skip that shit. I can't be nobody's wife. I can't do the wife shit. And I'm going to be single, happily, voluntarily single her whole life. Damn near 90 years old. And she hired a man. She didn't just hire a man. She had real money. So she hired a white man just to go stand and be a stand-in. She formed some LLC. And when there were contracts written up or something to be negotiated, she would hire a white man just to come stand. That was his job. And literally there's this thing in Asia called a white monkey, where Asian business owners will hire white people to come into their restaurant and pretend to sit at their restaurant. They'll hire white factories, will hire a white man and give him a title of inspector or something, so that when the government officials come to inspect the facility, they see a white man standing in a lab coat. Or you go to a shopping center, and you see a white woman browsing, and those people are paid to be there. Because in the nature of the society of the Chinese middle class and the Chinese upper classes, if it ain't white, it ain't right. And my aunt had a white monkey back in the 70s, 80s. He didn't know nothing about nothing. He just stand there and looked pensive, do a hum. And she's like, yeah, I just got exhausted. I got exhausted doing the fight. This is a sexist society. I've seen sexism in real time and on a daily basis. But you have to talk to and listen to women. I mean, the shit is there. It blows your mind. It's like, I know a sister who married a white dude. And this white dude was like, black people are too sensitive. Black people are always complaining. The hardest thing, the white guys got it hard. You talk to this white boy today, he's like, racism, oh, racism there, racism there, racism everywhere. He now sees it. From talking and listening to and being instructed by his black spouse, he sees it. He sees it everywhere. Like, goddamn, shit is real. Shit is real. Sexism is permeated, and it's water. It's water. Sexism and patriarchy are synonymous. You can't have patriarchy without sexism, because patriarchy literally says the first thing you have to consider about anyone coming to power is it a man or not? Men run things. And for women to be able to participate, like Hillary Clinton, Margaret Thatcher, Golda Meir, these women who claim they're feminist, but everything about them, everything they do, how they rule is patriarchal. Now, misogyny, you can't have sexism, but another component is misogyny, which is literally the hatred of women, all things women. You can be a patriarchal sexist. Not all sexes are misogynist. It's a little, complex for me too, but if you read the literature, but it leads to that. And what feeds misogyny is when individual men who think patriarchy is something that serves, patriarchy doesn't serve all men. Patriarchy is not for all men. Patriarchy is for the elite men, just like capitalism. So you have a lot of men who do not receive because patriarchy creates entitlement in men, and men do not perceive that they are getting what they are due as men. As a man, I'm supposed to be this, and I'm supposed to have this, and I'm supposed to do this. If those entitlements aren't fulfilled, they look around for someone to blame, and they can't blame patriarchy. So they scapegoat, just like racists do. All unjust systems have, racism, fascism, colonialism, capitalism. Most of these horrible isms have so many overlapping characteristics if you substitute one word for another. If you're a black man that doesn't understand patriarchy, just look at racism and replace black with female and white with male, and it all comes clear. Now, what I wanted to talk about, because I've had an opportunity to talk to several patriarchal men who say that patriarchy will save the black family, but also deny that patriarchy is the cause of all these problems, including single parent households is a product of patriarchy, just like poverty is a product of capitalism. People are like, yeah, these women, these single mother households are a bad thing. If you're anti-single mother households, under-resourced households, unstable homes, you should have an issue with patriarchy created that and called it matriarchy. So these are the justifications for patriarchy. Now, this is one justification that most people fall on, but they don't acknowledge, and that's religion. Religion is Christianity. Man made God in his image, created woman from the rib. And then the woman went about, after being granted life by Adam and God, went about bringing sin into the world. And God has punished women for this ultimate sin. There would be no sin, there would be no death if it was just God. Woman was an afterthought. Woman was an afterthought. And if you read the Bible, I know y'all like to call everything bad in the Bible a symbol or allegory, fables, but the Bible was literal. You get your tongue cut out for not following along with that shit. Said that ain't no allegory. People don't cut your tongue off for failing to get the symbolism. But the other animals were considered as appropriate partners for Adam. Maybe Adam could take a mule on as his partner. And so Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are patriarchal, patrilineal, and sexist to the core. They are anti-women, to the point where some of these religions, all three of them, have gone about saying that woman must cover herself. And we forget about that because now Christianity has had more time to work its shit out and assimilate into modern senses, more time to Christianity. But when you see women in burqas and hijabs and all that, that comes out of Christianity. Go look at medieval Europe. Go look at the nuns. Judaism. Go look at Orthodox Jewish women. Dr. John Henry Clarke said, Islam is the most unoriginal religion ever created. So when everything you don't like about Islam, 9 times out of 10, it's just them mimicking the old world Christianity and Judaism. So those are, but Hinduism is sexist. I mean, Judaism said that no nation ruled by a woman will ever prosper. But Hinduism, the yin yang, and Buddhism say that women are the negative, women are evil, but they need at least what we need them. You need the balance. As the religions that believe in karma say that if you live a bad life as a man, one of the punishments you can return as a dog or you can return as a woman. If you don't live a good life and you believe in a religion based on reincarnation, one of the punishments that can be leveled against you, your comedic destiny, is that God will have, or the gods will have you return as a woman as punishment for not living a good life. So Buddhism, sexist. Christianity, sexist. Most of these cults and offshoots, Nation of Islam, sexist, patriarchal. So religion was a justification. But these brothers I was talking to were modern men, men of letters, educated men. So they didn't want to say religion, even though they acknowledged that they were raised religious. They say that's not their justification. So then they say, well, the justification is biological. Men are stronger and men are more intelligent than women. We can knock down the intelligence argument. There's found that there's no appreciable difference in potential for intelligence for women. But they do us, they do them. They give women are not, in many countries, are not educated, are not allowed access to equal education. And then they'd be like, well, women are uneducated. But the scientific research says that unbiased, balanced research into the intellectual and cognitive abilities do not differ very much from male to female. Men are not inherently smarter than women or vice versa. So then, but another biological thing is might. Men are statistically, physically stronger, have denser bones, and more developed muscle tissue than women. And so you can have a society say, well, because I'm stronger, because I can knock you down. Like Dick Gregory said, my woman has never been stronger than me. I knock her down when I get ready. And he was saying that because he wanted to denounce the strong black woman trope. He said that the strong black woman thing was a setup for black women. He said they didn't want to call black women beautiful. They didn't want to call black women responsible. They didn't want to call black women intelligent. So they say, well, how can we compliment black women without truly complimenting them? How can we compliment them in a way to gaslight them? So they would say, you're a strong black woman, independent. So anyway, you have a might makes right argument. And some men will look you dead in the face and say, well, I can kick your ass. But we understand that since the implementation of laws and structures, your physical ability does not grant you your physical might, your ability to do harm or damage is not a justification for taking power. If that was the case, I could go kick Biden's ass and be president. You don't have presidents fight shit out in the ring. That was at a time how you would choose the ruler. Two men would bash each other until one man was dead, and the man that wasn't dead, but most likely brain damage, becomes the ruler of everything. So might is no longer a justification for rulership. And if it doesn't work on a society, on a governing level, how could it be a justification in a person when you say the family is the foundation? So then you have tradition. But appealing to tradition is literally a fallacy. You cannot justify something by saying, we've always done it this way. If you use that explanation in any other arena, scientific or even in a soft science, ideological, philosophical, it is a philosophical, logical fallacy that tradition justifies anything. Not saying that traditions are bad. I'm not saying that traditions are bad, but I am saying that tradition is not a justifier. If you've never looked at anything your family has says, this is what we do as a family, or this is what we do as a community, or this is what we do as a nation, and because it's what we've always done, if you failed to look at that and say, okay, this is what we've always done, but I'm going to really examine it. What are the benefits? What are the harms? What are the long-term and short-term impacts of this ongoing tradition? That's the difference between being a critical thinker and being indoctrinated. So tradition. And one brother told me, I bullshit you not. He said the reason why men should rule, why patriarchy is justified, is saying that is because when shit hits the fan, men are expected to take care of it. So what he was basically saying that if there is a crisis of any nature, women generally turn to or look to men to solve it. I couldn't argue that. You know, there was the one time I had to pull my pistol out. You know, there was something going on in my neighborhood, and I heard some noises outside. And anyway, I had to grab my pistol and run out the front of the house and say to my wife, "Hey, keep the boys, get the boys and the kids, lay low." Fortunately, it was a false alarm. It was a false alarm. It was a creature, actually, but it sounded like somebody was trying to breach our house at like 2, 3 in the morning, and my wife woke me up. "Well, you hear that?" And I'm like, "Hear nothing. I'm going to bed." Then I heard it clang bang, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is it. This is it. Time to man up." And I got the pistol and I headed downstairs in my drawers, ready to light some shit up. Fortunately, thank the ancestors. But so I know it. And if it could be a mousetrap, I know I'm one of them brothers who had to pull over on the highway in the rainstorm, in the middle of the rainstorm, and the car was a flat tire. And I'm changing the flat tire in the middle of the rainstorm, and my wife is sitting there, and my son is in the back seat, and they listening to music, swiping their phones, and I'm out there on the side of the highway, drenched. Crisis. But does that give me a right to go home and say, you can wife, you have to dress this way, you can go to this school, or you can't? Decide her education path, decide her career path, dictate to her what she gonna cook and how she gonna cook it, dictate to how she gonna raise her kids and how she can interact with my sons. That gives me, because I'm the one who handles crisis. So I asked that brother, do you think police should govern us? Because the police, if something happens, we call the police. And so they are, or the firemen. The firemen hire crisis. I said, in what societal functional society, where the people who address crisis are qualified to govern every other element of society, or any other element of society? So if a policeman or a man who's in the military wants to go into politics, they have to demonstrate some type of political acumen. They have to demonstrate some competency beyond, or at least in theory, beyond. They have to be intellectual. They have to have a capacity for diplomacy. Nobody's elected to office, because if you're really good at managing a crisis, that's great. Like I said, our sons, when it came time for our kid to get stitches, I'm the one that went into the room. And my son was skateboarding and fractured his knee. I went into the x-ray room, and I went in because my wife can't stand to see her boys in pain. But when they sick and they snot and vomiting and stuff, my wife dealt with that. She'd wipe that shit up and clean them boys up and wash them and make sure when they were sick. We have a division of labor in our house, and it generally falls down gender lines. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm very comfortable. Cisgendered man. I wish I could drink beer and watch sports. I think I'd have every man box checks, but I hate beer and I hate sports. But if I could just find a good vegan organic beer and a sport I'm willing to watch, all I would need then is a pair of tattered boxer drawers and a recliner seat, and I'd be 100% man. Thump my chest. But I'm getting there. Give me a little bit more time. All I'm saying is that justification of crisis. I deal with crisis, therefore I rule. That is not a civilized, rational, or intelligent or functional way to establish a power hierarchy. Another one is, the brothers told me, and these are justifications I got. They all kind of overlap and feed into each other. One brother said women refuse to take responsibility. And I mean that, not that they don't want to control things, but he's saying a woman will do something wrong. A woman will do something wrong and then won't take responsibility for what she did wrong. Right? Like, let's say something my wife had dropped me off at the airport. And then on the way back from the airport, she had a car accident. Now, she immediately jumped out of the car and says, "Oh, I rear-ended this guy. Totally my fault. I kind of zoned out. Had to go to the airport, get up at 3 a.m. and get to the airport early." Well, because I like to get to the airport 8 hours ahead of time. I don't play with planes. I like to get there early. But anyway, in that scenario, like she'd wreck the car and be like, oh, that man stopped in front of me. It's not my fault. Oh, it was too cloudy that day. So when a woman doesn't, she say women will do things. One brother said that, I ain't gonna give the example because I ain't trying to put nobody on blast. But basically, they say because women like to skirt responsibility, when they do wrong, they'll do something wrong or they'll do something other than what their man told them to do. This is literally what he said. I tell my wife to do something, she refuses to do it, and she wants to go her own way. And then when things inevitably fall apart, she gonna look to me to fix it, and she won't take responsibility. So men should rule because women refuse to take responsibility. I can't even debate that one. I mean, if you're with a woman who refuses to take responsibility, don't impregnate that woman, let alone marry and try to build a family with her. There had to be, do some responsibility test. Set up a booby trap. And when she sets off the booby trap and something spills all over, the marbles spill on the floor, see if she's like, oh, did I do that? I think that was my fault. Set up, because what can you, if you know an individual, but it hasn't been my experience. Because now I have to speak from experience. I don't know about this. It doesn't sound realistic. But it hasn't been my experience that women refuse to take responsibility. I know sometimes I've had to, there in my marriage, there has been finger point. No, it's your fault. No, you did it. You did it. No, you did it. You did it. No. And I know that, but that tends to be, some like, no, I wasn't. Remember. So, but as far as universal refusing to take responsibility for anything, and then there's the women are too emotional. That's another thing I heard. Women don't have the heart to make hard decisions to bomb children in Afghanistan and in Somalia, Pakistan, Iraq. Women wouldn't have the fortitude to carry out coup d'etats or to fund and arm and equip death squads. It takes a man to do that. Women are too emotional to hold power. So either they're too emotional, meaning that they're not refused, they're too skittish to shed blood, or they're too emotional, meaning they're too quick to shed blood. I've literally heard both arguments. That a woman is too emotional, therefore she's too soft-hearted, or a woman is too emotional, therefore she's more likely to do horrendous things. I don't really believe that men have a strong argument in the emotion department, even though we express our emotions differently. I don't cry. I mean, I can't remember the last time I cried, but that doesn't mean I don't have emotions. It's just men, women, and within men. I got a homie who cries quite a bit. Makes me uncomfortable as hell. But he lets it out. I have other homies that don't cry, don't even flinch. I have homies I've seen. I heard their bones not only break, I heard their bones rubbing together within their body. I'm trying to get them to the hospital. And they didn't cry. They cracking jokes. I had a homie who cut himself open so deep you could see the muscle tissues and the arteries pumping. And he fell on the rail tracks. Rest in peace, Dion. And we carried him on our shoulders back. We're all drenched in his blood. He could have bled out. And we carried him to his mama and she got him to the hospital. The whole time he was chilling. I was in more pain seeing him, how bad he was cut than he was. So you got dudes out here. Now, both of those brothers I know have emotions. We just express them differently. But I've seen men, you want to see a man's capacity for emotion, do anything to slightly offend his ego. A lot of dead bodies out here because of men's emotions. A lot of men sitting and rotting away in cells because of men's emotion. You can't tell me about two emotion, even though we express them differently. So you can say, well, women don't express their emotions the way men do, or men express their emotions differently. But saying one is non-emotional and one is, that doesn't. Right? And so finally is that women don't want power. Women want to be ruled. Women have a desire. I had a brother tell me that the woman's natural inclination is to serve and to submit, and that submission and servitude brings a woman happiness and contentment. A woman that is forced to be in a position to make decisions. And I would say If that is that woman's choice, then by all means, then she should be in a relationship that allows her that. But how does that woman reflect all women's desires? There are some black men, black women, and black children who love being up under white domination, would have it no other way. They love this world as it is. They want to strive and secure the bag under capitalism. They are patriotic Americans. You got black people out here waving Confederate flags. You got black people out here talking about they love Hitler. But they don't speak for all black people. They don't even speak for they don't speak for sane black people. So if there is a woman that says, I need a man that's going to be dominant, I need a man that's going to make decisions, and I want to be the man, blah, blah, blah. But I got something to tell you, brothers. If you find that woman, be careful. It could be a trap. Because I've seen a lot of those, oh, save me, take control, make all the decisions. That shit gets old. And eventually she's going to want to assert some influence. And I'm just telling you, be careful. There are so many men that walked into relationships with a docile woman and left the relationship with a boot in their ass. Because it's just not realistic. Human beings, just human primates, the human psychology just doesn't function that way. Autonomy, having your own identity, establishing and pursuing your own goals are just a part of any healthy person's, even children. You have children that are highly dependent, children who can't even use the bathroom on their own. You start to see they want to assert some level of independence, some level of self-determination. So if you think this woman wants to be nothing more than an assistant to help you achieve what you want, an outlet for your desires, and a support network for your ambitions, good luck with that. Me, honestly, I wouldn't believe her. But if that's truly who she is, if that's really how she wants to conduct her life, by all means, I'm glad y'all could find each other. And really, I'm kind of curious and perplexed with these patriarchal men, because there are a lot more patriarchal women than there are feminist, womanist, matriarchal women. Most women came up under the same indoctrination you did, so they have the same values and outlook. They believe in most women believe in the same page. A man is the head of the household. A woman is the helpmeet. Adam and Eve. Most women believe that shit. So why do patriarchal men have such a problem finding a woman? Because all these men that I surveyed about what are the justifications for patriarchy, out of all the men, only one of them was married. Literally, all the other brothers were single or dating. You know, it's like, I'm a vegan. It was not easy to find a vegan woman, but this is way back in the 90s, early 2000s. I'm like, I can't come home to bacon. I can't have no fried chicken. I can't have lunch meat in my refrigerator or eggs. I can't. So one of the things I'm like, I gotta, I can only be with a sister who's vegan. And if she's really cute, if she's really, really cute, I will be with a vegetarian. So when I met my wife, she was vegetarian. She wasn't vegan, but she eventually submitted and became a full-fledged vegan. So I know if I was patriarchal, man, I could just throw a rock and I'm going to hit a patriarchal woman. So I don't know what these brothers' problems is, because they was telling me about how horrible it is, because these women, and as you engage with most women and you really go down the line of what patriarchal women patriarchy is, most women align with it. I say, unfortunately, but if you go down the line of capitalism, most black people support capitalism. So we got to work on that. But what really bothers me is patriarchs and patriarchal people refuse to acknowledge that they've won. They refuse to acknowledge that their system is the dominant system, because if you acknowledge that your system is the dominant system, you got to take the good with the bad. But if you could pretend like your system is either not in power or your system is under threat, then you could pretend like the system you oppose is creating all the problems. So the single parent household, the mass incarceration, all this horrible nightmarish shit that is modern life is a product of patriarchy. And you don't want, and so I did get, credit to the brother who says, I'm a patriarch. He says, I want to redefine what patriarchy is. He said, I want to rework it, redefine it, because what it is unacceptable. So, some people listen to reason. So out of the half dozen brothers that I was talking to directly and the other brothers that I casually surveyed, there was one brother that was like, yo, we do need to change patriarchy. And I'm like, why not abandon it? He said, we can't abandon it. It's a good thing. We just got to get rid of all the bad shit. It's kind of like when you talk to people about democracy or capitalism or Christianity, the good Christian, the good capitalist, the good patriarch. So I guess striving to be a good patriarch is better than status quo patriarchy. And then to speak to black men in particular, I've already spoke to this in the last show, the black men, or AKA the powerless patriarch, because I was going back and forth with the brothers and my wife was watching the exchange. And the first thing she said to me after she had watched I wouldn't call it a debate. I say it was a discussion about patriarchy. And she said to me, why are they so obsessed with dominating women instead of dominating society? They want to rule their households, but they're content to be out of power and not ruling the systems that govern their life. Like, why instead of fighting black women, why don't they go fight the system if they want to fight so bad? Because it has to be understood. This system is patriarchal. Patriarchy is sexist. Patriarchy not only diminishes women, it takes women for granted. Therefore, in many instances in this society, black women were considered a non-threat or a diminished threat, whereas black men were an exaggerated threat and thus a greater target and had specific oppressive tactics imposed on black men. In a patriarchal system, black men get targeted with more violence because the system says, well, men are a threat, women are an afterthought. So I fully understand that as black men. But what's weird about that is a lot of times black men will be more outraged at black women than the white men who do it. I had a brother come and show me all these links. There's this myth that there's only so much justice that can go around. So when the white man is giving justice to one group, then that means the other group is not getting justice. And so the group that's not getting the justice starts to attack the group that is. So the white man only has so much justice in his justice pouch, his magical justice pouch. And so when the white man frolics across the land diminishing justice, if he drops the justice sprinkles on one group, that means the other group won't get justice. That's not how justice fucking works. It blows my mind. Black men or black women, black people in general, them immigrants coming to this country. And black people mad at immigrants. Black men mad at black women mad at black old people mad at black children, black women mad at black men. And I had this dude show me, look, the Bill and Melinda Gates grant is for black women, for black women in technology. And they trying to put black women in technology. Here's another small business grant for black women, small business grant. And he's showing me all these links to articles of these multinational corporations giving money, earmarking money for black women individuals, black women scholarships, or black women enterprises. And he was mad as hell. Mad at black women. Mad at black women. Like black women getting all this, and the white man, I'm like, you didn't get your just. Why didn't you run up and the white man, like Peter Pan, giving the justice sprinkles? That's not how justice works. The system is either just or unjust. And I even try to say, well, 97% of those black women are going to have husbands, black husbands, because affluent, wealthy, if they take that money and they go on to become affluent, then most affluent blacks are married. They have much higher marriage rates than poor and working class blacks. And most black women marry black men. So unlike the NBA players, a brother gonna get a cut of that. Even if they don't stay married, he can get his half, get his spousal support. That didn't make him happy though. He was still mad. But it blows my mind the way we scapegoat each other instead of being mad at the system that oppresses black men. You mad at other vulnerable populations who get some semblance of benefit. I mean, he just had so much. Like, this dude was a reservoir of resentment for black women. He knew everything that black women, more than y'all know. I was like, damn, dude, you could start a consulting firm, because anything coming to black women, you know it before black women know it. You should start a consulting firm telling black women of the various corporate and government funded grants and programs and benefits and scholarships and set-asides. Because this dude knew he was mad. He hated black women, but he knew everything that they had coming to them. I should go find those links. I'm like, God damn, he was just bang, bang, bang. You told me black women are oppressed. Bang, 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 bang. Look at this program. Look at that program. Look at this grant. Look at this funding. Look at this scholarship for black women. And he was mad as hell that black women were getting anything. I'm like, I can't even argue with you. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, do you think that there was there wasn't enough room for brothers too? I'm like, why do you think they're doing this? Why do you think they're giving this stuff to black women? Because they want to tear down the black man. So who wants to tear down the black man? The black woman? And then he's like, because I was trying to get him to say, well, my enemy is the capitalist. My enemy is the white men. My enemies are the institutions that are so discriminatory that they have to do set-asides and affirmative action in order to balance that out. And he would never say it was the black women receiving the benefits that were depriving black men. And I said, most of these things look like marketing schemes, and they go through cycles. They'll pick immigrants, they'll pick disabled, they'll pick LGBTQ, they'll get black men, or get their turnaround. I said, most of these, oh God, look at the time. I didn't get to talk about black marriage and black family. I guess we'll pick this up Wednesday. I have to. Oh, wow. I'm way over time. Why ain't nobody tell me nothing? All right. But it's going to get better, y'all. Brothers, especially if any brothers are still listening to me, I'm about to turn this around. I'm about to say I'm going to talk about, I'm just setting a cue. I am so sorry for going way over time. I can't believe this. But we're going to talk about black love. We're going to talk about the black family, the decline of marriage, what the decline of marriage really means. We're going to talk about black love. And then we're going to talk about what I advocate for, what is I have come to call revolutionary love, or what I call anarcho relationships. So anyway, support the BroDiallo broadcast in the various ways you can support the BroDiallo broadcast. Sorry about this, John, for stepping on the schedule like this. It was not on purpose. I just totally lost track of time and nobody told me nothing. So anyway, we'll be back Wednesday evening. Happy Hanukkah. And what else? What's I going to say? Wear your goddamn mask. Put your mask on. Keep your mask. Just go get yourself a regular little cotton mask. Protect yourselves and your loved ones. Just get these. I got these little cotton masks. Cotton fabric mask. You don't need the N95. These are, just get a mask, wash it. Keep yourself a couple of dozen masks, wash them, and go on about your business. But mask up, y'all. There's been an explosion. The hospitals are now in the major cities are now at 80% capacity and filling up fast with COVID and other respiratory illnesses. So mask up. Just pretend like you Michael Jackson or some other super famous. Remember, Michael was wearing a mask long before anybody else. Just pretend like you're a famous rapper trying to be, or famous celebrity trying to be low key. Y'all like to imitate celebrities, right? Mask up, y'all. Anyway,